Year older, year wiser. Year older, year wiser. All right. So here's what we're taking a look at. The author, the playwright, is a guy by the name of Sophocles.
Do we have to write all of them?
Yep. And not to be mean, Max, here's what's going to happen. After we're done, we're doing a large work. Most times when we do a lengthy work like this, we read it in sections. We do study guides. We do little quizzes. At the end, we do a pretty significant essay, and then after that, we do a pretty significant test for it. The test that we'll do for Oedipus, it'll cover characters and action and all that stuff. It's also going to cover like background. So there'll be some questions about Sophocles on there. It's not that you're going to have this memorized word for word, but there'll be questions coming up. Anyone ever see Sophocles? Anyone been to Carnegie History Museum? Dinosaurs?
My cousin's wedding was there.
Down in that Carnegie Hall at the end, or like by the dinosaurs.
Like the music hall.
Yeah, at the far end. If you go down by the music hall, there's that hall of architecture where they have the casts of like churches and all that kind of stuff from around the world. As you go into that hall of architecture, there's a big statue of Sophocles. So you might have actually seen him over there. It's not an original statue; they took a cast of it, a mold. But Sophocles is one of the more well-known playwrights. So he's a person who would certainly, he writes a lot of plays in his career, which we're going to get to. It's a Greek play. It's a very old Greek play. It's actually part of a trilogy. There's Oedipus Rex, and then there's also two other plays that kind of go along with it that we might mention here a little bit. One of the things that we know about Greek life would be that they had a lot of rituals that were going to honor their gods. They did plays during these rituals specifically to honor Dionysus, because he was one of the harvest gods. They had their grapes, so they used grapes a lot when it came to wine, and then also other foods. So they would have the god of the grape harvest festivals, and one of the ways that they would honor him would be having these play competitions that would be taking place in Athens. So it was a yearly celebration, a yearly get-together, and this would be a place where you would have a contest to find out who would be the playwright of the year. If you got recognized as being like the playwright of the year or a well-known playwright, it was instant celebrity status. So for us, not that we were alive in the times of William Shakespeare, but a Greek playwright would be as popular as someone like Shakespeare would have been in England. If you think about movies in today, not the actors, but the directors, like a Quentin Tarantino, would be widely recognized. Steven Spielberg still has a name, even though he might not be doing as many movies. That's what the playwrights were recognized as. So you're a big-time celebrity. If you won Playwright of the Year, you got a cash prize. And then you also got the status that went along with it that led to some more jobs and more money kind of coming in. Sophocles was 24-time champion. So 24 times, not every year, but 24 times that he partook in the competition, he ended up winning. So he apparently was pretty good at what he did. Tyler, have you ever won anything?
Yeah.
What have you won? Have you won it 24 times? Okay, now you gotta go for it. I haven't won anything, so you're ahead of me. Did you think they were going to go away after 2 minutes?
Yeah, yay for bullet points. I was hoping they weren't this one.
First time he won was a surprise. It was an upset. There was a guy, Aeschylus. Aeschylus was 11-time champ at that time. No one thought that he would be losing to an upstart, and then Sophocles came along and defeated him. I was talking about, when you think about playwrights at that era, it'd be like a Shakespeare, Spielberg, Tarantino. That's the way that Aeschylus was viewed, and then Sophocles comes along and obviously kind of takes him off of his podium at that point, his pedestal. So you had an established playwright, Sophocles comes by and defeats him. Sophocles, how many tragedies, how many plays does he write? We don't know for sure. The number that gets thrown around is 120. I'll raise this up here in a minute. you'll see totals like maybe 123, 127. We don't know because only 7 of them still exist. There's only physical copies of 7. But there are references to other ones that he did. Plus, we know that he was winning these competitions year after year. So he certainly has more than just those 7 plays. But he is a very prolific writer, very prolific contributor when it comes to that. Greek plays, we're going to get in the background of Greek plays. Greek plays usually are tragedies. When you think of the word tragedy, what comes to mind?
Accident.
Something bad. Okay?
Wait, when we get our iPads, are we going to be able to type them
No. Well, I don't know. We'll have to see. You're doing more notes in these first few days. I shouldn't say more. You're doing notes more frequently in these first few days than what we would always be doing. Yeah, you probably could, but it would be up to you to print them out. Because it's still going to be part of a notebook check, that's why I'm saying that. What I don't want you to do is, I don't want you to sit there and stare and be like, when I go home, I'm going to go watch the presentation and then I'll type them up at that point. I do want you to participate. I know no one likes writing notes, and everyone learns in different ways, but rewriting things tends to be a good way for it to kind of stick in your memory. Because you actually remember doing it. What's your most difficult class? So, do you think?
Actually, no, chemistry.
Chemistry would be a good thing where you take notes. I would rewrite the notes, write them 2 times, because that'll kind of help with memorizing them. So as I was saying, he's written, we know more than 120 tragedies, but only 7 survive. Tragedies usually think of something that's going to have a negative connotation. You said car accident, I believe. People will say death and things like that. It's not that the Greeks were depressed, but the Greeks were devoutly religious when it came to their gods. And the belief was if you did something that made the gods upset, something bad was going to happen. So how do you teach this to people? You give them stories. You give them tragedies to watch, to listen to, so that you learn your lesson. Austin's in a tragedy right now. Period 5, English class with Mr. King. Next year, he can be the lesson for other people. And we'll get into some things here with the gods. Constant themes that tend to come up quite a bit is like fate and trying to go against your fate, because that was a strong belief of the Greeks and Romans at that time. Things were kind of predestined for you. And so if Josh tried to do something that would break away from what he was destined to do, he probably would be punished for it. When you do have your iPads next week, I would follow along with them so that when I switch the slide, if you need to still stay on the other one, you got that ability to go back to it. So that's reason to have those things. But again, your day's Tuesday.
Are they giving us the same ones from last year?
I have no idea.
They do.
Because they're giving the teachers.
And I assume that you get them in your social studies class because that's the way that it's been before, but I haven't heard any final thing. When that happens, they'll call you down to the office and just give it to you. Because that happened with folks last year, since a lot of people have it double blocked. Double blocked. You have, yeah.
I had that last, when I did my thing, I had 2 double blocked classes second semester this year.
All right, kind of started to allude to this. Things that he was concerned about. And you can shorten this to get it better for you if you want. But he was concerned about individuals' need to find his or her place in the world. That's something people still kind of talk about. Why me? Why am I here? But what's their place within the world so far as how it's going to fit in with whatever that cosmic order could be, existing morals, political landscape, religious kind of viewpoints, but trying to help a person understand who or where they are, where they belong. Hold on. You will. Also, and this would be a big thing when we talk about fate, and this is absolutely a major concept that's going to show up within this play, moral lessons against too much pride or religious indifference. So, what would be like synonyms that we could use for someone who has too much pride? Like how could you describe a person who has too much pride? Condescending, cocky, arrogant, conceited, full of themselves. A word, narcissistic's a good one. A word that the Greeks use is hubris, and we'll use that a few times as we get to different points. But you have too much pride, too much arrogance leads to your downfall. It leads to your downfall because if you are cocky or if you are arrogant, generally speaking, what do you think you are? Better than others. Okay? Tyler's won hockey tournaments. Who cares? I know I'm better than him. If I am so arrogant that I think I'm better than other people, then really, what am I saying I'm as good as? Maybe no people, but gods. And so the big downfall is you have people who have too much pride that they think they're better than others, therefore they give themselves godly qualities, and that's when you run into this thing of religious indifference because you think you're just as good, if not better, than the gods. You'll sometimes hear a term demigod. A demigod would be a person who thinks that, part human, part God. That would be a big downfall that would take place. Austin, once you get this last part, you can sign out then, okay? This is going to sound weird, I know, but remember, we're going back thousands of years. What does Sophocles add to Greek drama? Like, as a writer, what did he do? He added a third actor. On stage, you used to only have two. I have this idea. Let's add a third. Minds were blown. Wow, you can do that. If you had had that idea 3,000 years ago, but he did a couple things. He added an actor. There used to only be two. The actors would use masks, all right? They would be in costume, but they would have masks on their face. When you, and this happens within like North Hills and schools, when musical time starts, what are logos that you start to see? North Hills, and you'll also see the two drama masks. One usually has a smile, and one usually has a frown. The masks that they would use wouldn't just cover their face, but they would be like exorbitantly large. So if you were sitting in the peanut gallery, way over in the back, you would still know that that's the king, that that's the servant, because the king's mask would have a big crown. The servants would look a little bit different. You would know that that person is happy because there's the smile. You would know that they were sad. You would know that they were dead because there would be like blood kind of coming out of the eyes or things like that, or some kind of turmoil has happened. So the mask kind of lets you know what was happening. They used sets. There wasn't big elaborate sets, but they would use some painted sets so that you could kind of add to the experience and know, again, what is the overall mood. Here's the big thing that he puts in. He puts in a thing called a chorus. When we think of a chorus, we think of a group of people that sing. Guess what the chorus did? They sang. They kind of chanted. So you have three actors on stage doing their thing. What the chorus would then do, after the scene, they would sing their 2 cents. And what they would do is basically give a public opinion. It was like a Twitter poll in the mid of tragedy. So the chorus would kind of let you know who they think is good, who they think is wrong. This is a good moment, this is a bad moment. We're fearful of the gods. Yay, everything is happy. But you would kind of get a public opinion. So these would give you ideas as to who is the good guy, who is the bad guy, or when there's some kind of change going on, the chorus would be a signal for that. So as we get to the end of our scenes, we're going to have odes, and this is when the chorus kind of comes out and sings. I've never had a person sing the chorus lines before. But I've never had a person start to do the karaoke while also doing the figurative language notes until this year.
Well, I guess I'm special.
So something could maybe happen a little bit different. Hold on. Greek theater, this is the way it would look. No, you don't have to draw this picture. So what you do, you got a big stage, and then notice you have this like amphitheater idea going around. So the reason you would have these large masks is you have this little person, here, you're sitting back here, you can't see it. I'm sorry?
It looks like something from Canberra.
What is interesting about these is the acoustics. If you go to old Greek theaters, they still work. So if you talk in a normal voice here, chances are you can hear it word for word up here. They were able to build it to figure it out how to get the sound to project without having microphones, megaphones, and all of that kind of stuff.
Wait, what?
For the structure, the way it's built, rather than and there's some places where if you're in a room, it echoes, or like if you go in a tunnel. Say you go kayaking at North Park and you go underneath the little bridge part, and my kids will get annoying and start yelling, and it like shrills, and I tell them to shut up, and then they do. That's bad. Here, if they were to talk, it wouldn't echo, but it would equally carry and distribute to all parts. But it's the way that the engineers actually designed it, and they got really good at that whole semicircle idea as to how it would set up. Shy after you get these. Okay. All right. Greek dramatic structure. This is the way that the play is going to be set up. So the first part that we're going to read, probably on Tuesday, maybe on Monday, is going to be called the prologue. This term is the Greek term prologos, but we're going to call it the prologue. It's the opening portion of the play. So this is essentially what is going to set the scene for everything. It's the beginning. It's the teaser. It's the trailer. When ours starts, things are bad. So they're going to come out and tell you why things are bad. What's then going to happen is there's going to be the parados, but we'll talk about how it's spelled, where this is going to be the entrance song of the chorus. The chorus is going to come in on either side of the theater down the aisle. So it's going to start off, here's why everything is going bad for us. And then the chorus is going to come in the dramatic effect. They're singing their songs, they're doing their whole chant thing, and they're going to kind of give their commentary for it. Pretty much every Greek word has like an OS on the end. But what typical English word or part of English word do you see in parados? I'd add a little bit more to it. Yeah.
Parade.
Parade. What's the chorus doing? They are parading down. They're doing their entrance. They're coming in. That's where we get parade from. So you got the main stage. You got this broad aisle that they're going to parade down, and then they do their thing. So these all kind of set up the opening scenes for what's going to be happening. So prologue, parados, both kind of starting here at the beginning, kind of giving us the lay of the land, so to speak, as to what's going to be happening. Play takes place in a town called Thebes. People are starving. Cattle are dying. Mothers are losing their children in childbirth. So it's basically play is going on right now at this point. And so what they want to try to find out is what can we do to fix it? Is it really... Within the play, yes. Thebes itself is...
Oh, I thought you meant real life.
Thebes is fictional. So the town that they keep referencing, Thebes, does not exist. As far as we know, has never existed. Chances are it's probably meant to be Athens, which would be the capital city. But no, this would be a fictional event that's taking place. Okay. Which is very important to remember as we go through some of the details in the play, because you're going to be going, wait a minute, this is not good. And that's when I go, fiction, Max, fiction. Then, after the parados, this is when you start to have scenes. And so, you think of plays, you typically think of scenes. Scenes, this is where the action is going to be. This is the main stuff. After every scene, then there is going to be an ode. So you have the acting taking place, you have the three characters on stage going through all their, the episodes of what's happening. The conflict is starting to unfold and things of that nature. And then after the scene, the chorus does its chant. And that's when the chorus kind of gives a little bit of a recap of what happened and how you as an audience member should be feeling. Or, even if that's not how you feel, it gives you an idea into how other people are feeling. So if I were to walk down the cafeteria and I see Hannah and I go, you know, what's going on today? Oh, people are upset. The ranch dressing's watered down. The fries are burnt. She would basically be doing the ode for me because I can kind of get a sense as to, okay, what's going on, what is happening. So you see it, and then you get commentary about it. Marioni, we have more bells in this class than like any other room. They're off in some rooms. I need that room. The odes, as it says down here, they're kind of written in poetic form. The play itself is not meant to be poetic. Did you guys do Romeo and Juliet last year? Yeah. People sometimes struggle with it, and then you start to get upset about Shakespeare. Sophocles is not Shakespeare, where he's not trying to write in poetic rhyming words all the time. Now, it is translated, because obviously he's writing in Greek, so sometimes the translations can be a little clunky, and so words will get used that maybe we're not always used to. Again, that's when it behooves you to raise the hand and go, I'm getting kind of confused here, what's happening, and that's what we'll talk about. 14. While we're reading, I'm going to take Ethan's just because it's right here. While we're reading, you're going to have your study guide out because we'll talk about stuff that's going to be showing up on your study guide. And sometimes I'll go, hint, hint, you should be looking at question number 3 on your study guide. Not right now. And then the last part is the Exodus. What's it sound like? You're exiting. It's ending. Okay? So this is the concluding section of the play. The Exodus ends with the chorus kind of singing their final lines as they exit. And this is when you get the overall, okay, that's how it finished. So prologue, parados, scene, ode, then another scene, another ode, another scene, another ode, another scene, another ode, exit. It's like English. It just keeps going on and on.
Are we done?
We're lifelong learners. We're never done. Oh no, we're doing one.
I hope it's not a big long paragraph. I think it is. It's still, I can just take a picture of it.
You do not need to write this down. Okay. So the setup generally tends to be for a normal one, prologue, parados, 4 scenes, 4 odes alternating, and then you have the Exodus. So that's the way that this alternation kind of goes. Here you can see, now this is obviously not a picture from when it occurred, but this is a remake that was happening of Oedipus. This is Oedipus. Based on what he's wearing, he's probably king. It is Oedipus Rex. Rex means king. Tyrannosaurus Rex was basically king of the dinosaurs so far as the name. So, now here's the part, Max, where we got to write it down. I said there was going to be more. Now I want you to write this down. Max, write it down, please. Greek culture and values, religious beliefs. So religion's instrumental in Greek life. So they were pious, they were reverent, they looked up to the gods. So they were going to, or at least you were supposed to, respect them as much as you possibly could. If you were going to do anything that was going to go against the gods, they would look at it as you were basically making almost a suicidal action.
Would they kill you?
Generally, no. You know, if you were to do you mean gods or do you mean like other people?
Other people would they execute?
If you were to do something that was considered so blasphemous, so you're going against a religious viewpoint, yes, it could happen.
Like what? You're like, it's not real.
One of the more famous executions of ancient Greece would be when Socrates was killed. Socrates, teacher, philosopher. Basically, the charge against him were that you were teaching things that the gods have not sanctioned. So you were basically making yourself up to the gods. And at that point, they ended up doing a vote. It was a vote of 501. He just didn't have enough on his side. I don't remember what the total was, but that would be an example where it was blasphemous what he was saying, what he was teaching, therefore he was killed. If you were to walk out, I shouldn't say walk out the street and go, but if you were to go to someone, you know what, I don't believe in this God stuff, that doesn't mean that you would be executed.
You're an atheist. I am an atheist. Here you go. This is Alexa's homework.
But the big thing here was that this whole idea of predestination, the concept of fate, that was critical to him. Alexa, sorry for not picking up. So Monday when we pick up, we're going to be taking a look at what we mean here with fate, the predestination. Other than doing a survey if you need to, or signing up for a Remind, you don't have a homework assignment. You do not. You do not. I just want to see what you try to log in my computer just so I can get a screenshot of it, and then I can send it. We can get your password or what's going on. And then, like, should you get on, I'll delete your profile and all that stuff.